Hi, my name's Tori and today we'll be filming Permanent Makeup Freckles at my studio in St Helens. For any kind of freckles, they always fall above and on top of the cheekbone. So I'm just gonna now just map very delicately where we're going to be placing the freckles. The line doesn't have to be perfect, just as long as it gives you a rough guide. So again, I'm just feeling where that cheekbone is and I'm just guiding it round. I don't want to be placing any of like the tattooing below this line. This is kind of like your safety line, so anything on top of it is perfect. So what I go about doing now, I don't actually put any dots in there because I like it to be more natural. So when I'm actually tattooing, I make sure that I'm just kind of placing it all speckled around. There's not really a way you would exactly do it because it's got to look natural. Gonna put the heart on with stencil fluid, so kind of like a tattoo. Okay, so I'm just using my go-to brown. I use probably about 2 different shades of brown. The other one I use is a medium. I don't like to go too dark with this as it will pull too cool. So I'm using an apricot kind of colour corrector. So I always add this in when I'm using any darker pigments for the faux freckles. So I put a few drops in. And then I will use my stirrer and just blend the colours together. And this will ensure that the colour is nice and warm, so when it's implanted into the skin, it's not going to pull too cool. I'm just going to swatch the pigment on my client's skin to make sure it doesn't pull too cool. I'm happy with the match, so now I'm just going to remove the pigment and start the procedure. Keeping my needle nice and short, I'm using a 3 rounds liner by Quadron to create the faux freckles. And I'm going to start the procedure. So I always start from the inside of the face if you keep your eyes closed for me. And on the nose, you just want to be really cautious about going too deep in the skin because the layer of the skin is very, very thin around this area, so you want to avoid any trauma or any or going too deep into the skin. So keeping it nice and superficial, I'm using pointillism to delicately place the freckles. So I'm not staying in the same spot when I'm doing this. I'm delicately going round in a circle in a pointing motion to create the faux freckle. These freckles need to not look perfect, as naturally nobody would have perfect freckles. So now I'm picking up the speed in the area that I'm working in and just gently using my pointillism in a circular motion now. So faux freckles lighten up to 70%, so it's important when you're choosing a colour to make sure that it's not too light. I know that colours can often scare people to put something a bit too dark in, but it does flake off and it will lighten once it's healed. With the stretch, I'm using my pinky and just pulling the sides of the nose. This helps just to feel a bit more sturdy on the skin. With this technique, you need to make sure that your stability is spot on and you're at a 90-degree angle. There's 2 techniques to create faux freckles. First, you can use stick and poke method, or you can use traditional machine method. I prefer the machine method because it's faster and it implants the pigment better. I prefer the 3-round liner just because it creates more of a speckles effect, and that's what you want to see when you're looking at faux freckles. So there's no pattern when it comes to faux freckles. You can follow kind of your client's natural pattern where you can see the freckles, but I like the effect where it's just speckles. I started offering the faux freckles back in lockdown when everything had like opened back up again, and the no makeup look was like a massive thing back then. Instagram filters, I'd say, has got like a massive kind of impact of like how popular faux freckles is now and how it influences in people's lives as well. The advice I'd give to anybody that wants to start the permanent makeup freckles is to get really artsy and use an app called Procreate. Just really get used to kind of looking at different faces and like placing the freckles and just getting really creative with it, and looking at kind of like different pigments as well, and making sure that you're not using traditional tattooing pigment. It's important not to come really close to the eye, and this is just because the skin is a lot thinner here and you wouldn't naturally see freckles this high, and it can cause more trauma in the skin. So I'm barely touching the skin, it's so superficial. Anything deeper and it'll pull too cool. So as you can see how natural the freckles look, this is exactly what you want it to look like. It's not too deep, it's at the perfect depth. Now we're going to move on to the second pass where we will add more freckles and we can go back into the ones that we've already implanted. Going back over the cheeks and making sure they're stretched when I'm tattooing. Keeping the tattoo needle at 90 degrees to implant the pigment, and using a pointillism method to implant the pigment. So I'm kind of going 1, 2, 3, 4 around the area that we're implanting the colour. With freckles and any type of semi-permanent makeup, you may find a little bit of swelling on the face, but it's only minor where the injection point was made. This is totally normal and it will calm down within a few minutes to a few hours. I'm just outlining the heart now, making sure that I'm comfortable and nice and slow. And then I'm just using circular motions just to fill in this area. So slow circular motions to pack in colour into the heart. This is my favourite technique when colour packing for long lasting and great healed results. So we have to build the colour up as it is a semi-permanent colour. So a second pass will be needed on this. Now I'm quickening up the pace now with my circular motions just to pack even more colour into this area. Thank you for watching my permanent makeup freckles tutorial. If you'd like to see more about my treatments, please see the description below.